Welcome to Medi-Tasting. I'm Rebecca Thompson with Champagne Henriot, and we're excited to introduce you to a new way to experience our luminous champagnes through Medi-Tasting. Medi-Tasting is an experience that allows you to connect in a more emotional way as opposed to an intellectual approach to tasting. Today, you'll be tasting our Champagne Henriot Blanc to Blanc and our Champagne Henriot 2008 vintage. Champagne Henriot is a historic grand marque founded in 1808. Champagne Henriot is one of the last family-owned and operated champagne houses. We source our grapes from the very best terroirs, Premier and Grand Cru, with an emphasis and clear focus on Chardonnay. We like to believe we transform nature into pure light. Time is an important element to achieve this. It starts with the Henriot family's 200 years of legacy and independence. It also relates to the time we take to age our cuvées, to allow them to mature and grow and really showcase how beautiful and how luminous champagne can be. We wanted to create an experience that allowed you to stop your routine, to slow down, and to really appreciate Champagne Henriot. Mindfulness felt like a pure and genuine approach to do that. I would like to introduce you to Elisha Goldstein of the Center of Mindful Living here in Los Angeles. Elisha will take you deeper into mindfulness and teach you how to experience Medi-Tasting on your own.
Hello, my name is Elisha Goldstein. I'm the co-founder of the Center for Mindful Living in Los Angeles. And as Rebecca mentioned, Medi-Tasting is the practice of applying mindfulness to wine tasting to really enhance your experience. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness just means awareness. But as a practice, it's about intentionally paying attention to something in the present moment, in this case, wine tasting, with an engaged curiosity. But there's something that we're all promised in this life, which is stress. And stress gets in the way of our perception, even with the most skilled wine taster. And so I just want to touch on this for a second. Like, what is stress? Stress is a conditioned reaction of thoughts, emotions, and sensations. And when we have a lot of stress and we hold on to our stress and we don't know how to let go of our stress, what happens is it gets heavier and heavier. As an example, I can hold on to this bottle of wine, and if you asked me to hold it out over here, if I continue to hold on to it, even though the weight of the bottle doesn't change, my experience of the weight actually changes. And so as we go into our wine tasting, or anything in our lives, if we're holding on to our stress right before we go into the wine tasting, it'll influence our perception and the experience of the actual wine. Tasting wine is more than to taste, and we typically employ all of our senses. And in this case with Medi-Tasting, what we're going to do is we're going to employ the stop technique to pay attention to each sense one at a time, to see, to smell, to hear, to feel, to taste. Let's do this together with Champagne Henriot's Blanc de Blanc. Okay, so let's stop whatever we're doing, right? Let's take a deep breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. It's almost like the out is just kind of releasing wherever we came from in that moment. And observing for a moment, how are you feeling physically right now? Notice if there's anywhere in your body that feels any sense of tension or tightness or holding. Or maybe you're feeling more at ease or calm. And also notice how you're feeling emotionally. Is there a sense of feeling relaxed, or is there a sense of feeling frustrated or restless or something like that? And then proceeding now by taking your first intentional sip. So now let's first see, picking up your glass and just taking a look at it and noticing the colors that are there. Noticing if the color is a light color or maybe a darker color. And also being aware of the bubbles that are arising and maybe the speed of the bubbles that are arising there. So just taking a moment to attend to your faculty of sight. Also, if you're noticing any condensation on the glass or not. As you're doing this, noticing how you're feeling right now, any sensations or thoughts that are arising. And so now let's move into feel. So, beginning to feel the weight of the glass here. Noticing the weight of the glass, and also you can also be aware of the temperature of the glass that's here, the temperature of the actual wine that's here. So feel free to actually note and feel into whether there's a sense of warmth or coolness that's there. And also, while you're doing this, being aware of how you're feeling physically and emotionally at the moment, or maybe what thoughts are coming up as you're doing this practice. So next we're going to listen. So bringing this to your ear, something you might not be used to doing, and just noticing what you're hearing. Maybe there's a symphony of crackles and bubbles that are there. And as you're doing this, this might bring an element of surprise. And so just, again, being aware of as you're doing this, like how this impacts you emotionally, how you're feeling physically, what thoughts are coming to your mind. So now let's smell. Here's an opportunity to go beyond the nosing you're usually familiar with. So taking a moment to bring this to your nose, inhaling, exhaling, and doing this now a second time. Inhaling, noticing the different aromas that are coming in. Noticing how it hits the different parts of your nose and also how it makes your body feel as you're doing this. And also what's coming up emotionally for you, or maybe different thoughts that are arising as you're doing this. Now time to appreciate. Taking a moment as you're looking at this wine, all the natural elements that came together to bring this into reality, the soil, the rain, the sun, all coming together to allow this to grow in a healthy way, and also considering for a moment the over 200 years of the House of Henriot and the 8 generations of family and workers that came together to till the soil, to nurture the vines, and also to lay to rest the bottle for years at a time in its fermentation process. And also considering the people who packaged this together and allowed it to ship to the place that you're in right now, and brought it out and poured it into the glass that you're looking at in this moment. See that whole journey for a moment and see if what arises is a layer of appreciative awareness. Notice how you're feeling physically. Notice what's coming up emotionally. Notice if any thoughts are arising. So finally now, it's time to taste. And so this is where the wonder of Medi-Tasting comes to life. So bringing this now to your lips, noticing how your mouth may be already anticipating this coming in, and begin to take this sip. Allowing it to roll to the back of your tongue. And just settle in there, noticing the taste buds and where they're picking up the various tastes of this particular wine. And also noticing if this is any different than when you first tasted a few moments ago, and being aware of that difference as well. So allowing yourself to settle into a sense of being relaxed, once again, taking a second sip. Breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Being aware of the fullness of the experience, the enhancing of your senses of this wine coming to life. So with each individual taste now, bringing this experience of Medi-Tasting into the next taste of the wines that you're about to drink.
As a Chardonnay-driven house, our Blanc du Blanc is our signature cuvée, depicting the luminous style of the House of Champagne Henriot. In fact, all of our non-vintage cuvées are sourced from the very best terroirs, Premier and Grand Cru vineyards, our Chardonnays coming from the Côte du Blanc, and our Pinot Noirs for the Montagnais de Reims. We use a high proportion of reserve wines in all our non-vintage cuvées, up to 40%, which lends itself to consistency and quality year after year. This also reinforces that element of time, because our reserve wines utilize up to 25 vintages. The 2008 vintage is sourced from the most prestigious Premier and Grand Cru vineyard sites, It's a perfect balance, 50% Chardonnay, 50% Pinot Noir. The 2008 vintage Henriot was only released in 2018 after aging 10 years in the cellars, the dark and quiet cellars of the Champagne Henriot house in Champagne. Precision, depth, and brightness are all signatures of the 2008 vintage. As you continue to sip and enjoy, if you experience pleasurable moments or the light within, we invite you to share with us at Champagne Henriot or #Medi-Tasting.